today is Dell, the famous Dell house.
Right.
Um,
We lived there longer than any place.
Probably. And
certainly with you kids.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's the one that Patty and I remember most.
Right. Because you were high school age and
right. The it was 1953. You decided you needed to move up to a bigger house because we were growing teenagers and needed to entertain and play, and I don't know, you just wanted a nicer house, and you could afford one then by 53. This was 5 years into industrial tool. I assume it was going pretty good then, and so you were trying to sell both houses. I mean, sell one and buy the other one.
Okay, yes.
You're watching the birds, huh?
Look at they one by one they come and they'll go right across that thing. They see.
Yep.
Pretty soon you've got 30 or 40.
They seem to attract each other. Once one comes, the rest of them come. So you write up in your autobiography a lot about those days when Fairview was on the market for sale. You would clean up and have everything ready to go at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then sit around all day. And for whatever reason, that was during the Korean War era. I mean, you couldn't sell it. I mean,
right.
Or it just wasn't going as fast as you wanted it to. But you finally found the one you wanted, which was Dell. You knew it right away, you say.
We lived, before that, I can see the place. It was back in about 4 or 5 blocks, and I got up with Patty, and she was, she was
13.
Maybe, yeah.
12, 13.
And I told her, I saw this ad in the paper that sounded promising. So we got up first thing in the morning and we walked over there from our place.
Yeah.
And the minute we saw the house inside, we knew that we wanted it. So from then on, it was up to Dick to get it, make the deal.
And that was the Halstead's house. Do you remember the Halsteads? Or that name? He was a contractor, a builder, an architect.
Was he our neighbor?
He was the owner that you bought from.
Oh, okay, yeah. He had built it himself. I mean, he was in charge.
Yeah. And he did that as a living. He would always.
I wouldn't have remembered that name at all. No.
But do you remember the house? What was so nice about the house?
It was bigger than anything we'd ever had.
Yeah.
You each could have your own bedroom.
Okay.
With one extra. And we had 2 bathrooms. So that we had one male and one female. And we had a big yard with fruit trees. And
well, it was in the middle of an orchard, wasn't it?
Oh, not really. No, it was the end house of all new houses. And as we lived there, they kept building up more and more on that.
Right. Well, what was going on in San Jose at the time was that they were converting orchards to suburban
That's right.
houses. And so what that was 5 years before, Fairview days, was all orchards. And then
but we had a full orchard of, it wasn't, I can't remember the fruit it was.
You had a big cherry tree in front, the big cherries.
Yeah, but that was only one. But what were the ones in the back?
A pear tree, an apple tree, and it wasn't Bing, it was a Royal Anne cherry. Those were the sweetest, firmest ones. But apple and, you had apple trees, and you put some trees in.
It was pears.
Pear.
Because they were a nuisance when, unless I got rid of them, they would all ripen at the same time and fall down into dirt, and then they would rot, and you'd have flies and bugs. And naturally, we ate as fast as we could, and I sent buckets out of its office. But we had about 6 or 8 trees. They were little, they were young trees, but they all had fruit. And so
that was the bounty of California.
What?
The bounty of California. Everything grows well in California.
Right.
Plenty of sun and rain, just the right amount. 12 years you lived in Glendale.
Yeah, I said that's the place you stayed longest.
Yeah, from 53 to 65. Yeah. Yeah, and that's where Patty and I sort of grew up through our teen years and off to college.
That's right.
So, and industrial was going well. This was, I remember that for me, that was the days of the hunting trips. Dickie and Rod and Wally went out. Wally had dogs, and we'd go hunting for pheasant or deer or ducks or something. What did you do on those weekends when
Dick didn't know twice about it, you know, and they were all nervous about him carrying a gun. Because he didn't know which was top and which was bottom and what to do with that thing.
Yeah, and I always thought it was really crazy. I mean, this was my introduction to male groups. It would be, you know, 5 or 6 adult men and me, a teenage boy.
We have some pictures like that of you with.
And these guys would all sit around the night before they went hunting. You know, we'd go up to Willits or someplace and go in a motel or rent a little house or something, and they'd all drink heavily. And for me, it was really shocking. You know, they're all drinking and talking. You know, telling dirty stories and you know, and this was a group of men that was going to go out and show me the next day how to, you know, be careful shooting birds and animals and things like that. So it was an interesting time. These were, as I recall, for a teenager, of course, they were the great days. The industrial picnics were wonderful in the summer. We'd go out and, you know, spend a long day. People would bring in. Your favorite was, or one of your trademarks was the watermelon carved out and all sorts of fruit put back in. And those were the days still when, even though there was a lot of the orchards were cut away for, and greenlands were cut away for housing, there were still just acres and acres of wonderful
when you kids
resorts.
would walk to school, you'd walk through an orchard.
Yes.
Eat all the way. You know?
Yeah, and pick fruit. Yes, I used to love walking along out through the orchards. But for picnics, like industrial picnics, we'd go up to picnic grounds that were
around the Elkhorn River, it seemed.
Yeah, and they were just gorgeous. Gorgeous places with swimming holes and baseball fields and barbecue tables and tons of other companies doing the same sort of thing.
I'm watching the little birds.
Well, we've got a little kitty cat that would like to, I should let out to go play with the little birds.
They must be, there are lots of seeds down there.
Yeah, there's plenty for the birds. So, and this was the time when I got cars, Patty got cars. Remember all those teenage cars? Always working on them, always greasy. I was. Patty had the Jeepster. Remember the Jeepster?
Remember the red Buick? That was Dick's first glamorous car, I think.
I don't even remember. I know he got an Oldsmobile. Yeah, that convertible.
Or was it an Oldsmobile?
Yeah.
It was 2-seater.
Oh, that, yes.
You and I
the Ford Thunderbird.
Back seat, and we were way up above.
Yes.
There was no top. Well, there was just a metal top.
A metal top that you took off. Yeah, that was a Ford Thunderbird. Yeah. Yes, I do remember that.
And if it bounced just right, it could have bounced us out. We kept going over the Elkhorn River, and every time we'd have our fingers crossed, because we did get bounced a lot, because it was a high seat, there was no handles or anything.
Well, and these are the days before seat belts were required.
Right.
And yeah, we could have gotten thrown out. Yes. Well, this was also the era when...
What is that? Just a white
It's a mourning dove.
Oh.
Mourning dove.
Look at him. Isn't he pretty?
So, this was the day that these were the days when Patty went away. I went away to school, to college, and then Patty went away to college, and so you had the empty nest syndrome.
And before Patty went away to college, she had this bevy of girlfriends, and they were always having parties at our house. You know, fill the kitchen with stuff and.
And you were the good mom hostess?
I kept the door open, and I can remember being out in the front yard. What's happened out there? And the boys came. We had a whole house full of girls,
they attract boys, yes.
A whole bunch of boys appeared on the scene in the front yard, so I had to kind of stay out there.
Take your broom out and
just
brush them away?
I just let them know that I was watching.
Okay. So with the empty nest syndrome going on after Patty had left and the girls weren't coming around anymore, you guys experimented with the foreign exchange service. Right.
Why did we have... Yes, I got interested in that, and we had a couple of different ones.
I know you had Hell that stayed, but you had a Greek girl too that stayed. Or
I really don't remember them too well.
And Vong. Vong was memorable because he was so different. I mean, the others were European. They sort of fit in culturally, and
right.
So they blended in, and probably had a complete life over at high school. These kids all came for their senior years in high school, I think, and went to Willow Glen High School. I mean, it was a program that was going on with Willow Glen High School. And you did it for at least 3 years.
That's probably 3 years.
Yeah.
It was a different one every...
Right, each year. And you've kept up with Hal.
And Vong. For a long time. And actually, in this pile of stuff, I've got a letter from Vong. And I should write it, but I just never get around to it. We have nothing to say to each other except, you know, the same old thing.
Well, no, and you've been over it again and again, but it's always nice to see something, and maybe we'll send him a copy of you talking about this era, this time frame, and he can sort of recapture your...
Good, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, because it goes on one of these little itty-bitty flash drives, and we'll just send him off a flash drive, or send it across on the internet, actually. So,
well, he might, you know, I think he is editor of something. And I think he has another job too, and his wife works, so I don't want to just send anything on wires because they may never get it.
Okay.
I don't know what names they go under.
And he visits every now and then.
Well, it's been years and years and years, and it's been years and years since I do have a letter in there. I don't know how old it is. It's probably more than a year, and I don't know whether I ever answered it or not. It's hard. There's nothing to say, you know, really.
And after the well, as the foreign exchange students were winding down, you and Dickie started traveling extensively too.
Right.
You traveled to Europe a lot. I was, at that time, after college, I went over to Germany with the Army, and I know you came over and visited a couple times there.
Right.
We tied up in Rome on one occasion, and Paris on another occasion, and
you would come in, and it was what you had on. For some reason, you couldn't be. You had to wear a uniform even if you were just on the street. Isn't that right? Right.
Oh no. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I was in the army. Yeah. I was definitely in the army and had to wear the uniform all the time. And I wound up at the end of that tour of duty with the Army, married to Gisela,
yeah.
and brought her back. Now, she sort of overlapped I think it was Vaughn just leaving when she was coming?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. She met, I remember her, I think she said she met Vaughn. Who was at the house. She stayed at Glendale for...
the thing I can remember about that period was Gisela climbing the cherry tree.
Pregnant.
And she was, yeah.
Well, I mean, she came on her 7th month, I think, so...
Yes, so she was fast.
She was well pregnant, yes. But she climbed up the cherry tree to get...
All the time. I mean, it was every time Dick would drive in the driveway, there she'd be up in the tree. and it bothered us because if she fell, you know,
yeah,
it would be... But you couldn't say anything.
Oh, you didn't want to scare her either and give her a fallout, yeah.
No.
So, and Patty was off at College of the Pacific, and you remember Dave Dutra? There was that experience.
Period, yeah, vaguely.
Yeah, and then she had come down to Arizona for a year before my final year there, before I went in the Army, and then she'd come back. I think she was back in San Jose then, and I think she was working at that time or going to had she started San Jose State yet? I remember.
I don't have any clear.
Mid-60s.
There's so many people then, and so many different people that I was keeping in contact with. But they get all mixed up.
So you had fun with Patty, though, with all those girls, didn't you? I mean,
Well, you can call it fun, but they made a terrible mess. They just tore up the kitchen, you know, and thought they were doing it right, but a woman always has everything in the right place in her kitchen.
Yeah.
Well, they take everything out and then they put it back, but they wouldn't put it back right, so I'd have to go back and do it all. And they were noisy, and I didn't particularly enjoy it. But I was glad to be the one that Patty had the open door for her friends.
Yeah.
You know.
Because that way you were keeping track of her,
yeah,
sort of.
I could listen in and size up the kids and which ones are troublemakers.
Well, and they're all giggly girls. I mean,
this
we're talking
all
16.
girls, but they were all looking for boys.
Yep, yes, the perennial search for boys. But they didn't know what to do when they got them, probably.
No.
Yeah, so... what made you eventually move out of Glendale? I mean, now that it was gone, you did the foreign exchange. Patty and I were both gone and away and married. And
where did we move to? Do you know?
Well, the next one was the house you built yourself. I mean, eventually you built the house at. I'm trying to get the address here. Over on Winona. But
I don't remember building a house.
Okay, so
I remember the word Winona, but I can't picture that. They all those streets that you've mentioned, they're all one to me. They all, when you say street, it's only one street. And I don't know which one it is.
It's probably the Glendale because that was the longest.
Yeah.
How was it with Vaughn when he first came? I know you used to tell stories about how he, it surprised everybody that he ate dog or cat, and their food was so much different from the Vietnamese to American food.
Right. Well, he adjusted and I adjusted. We got along fine.
Vaughn came in 1962, which was it was your last 3 years in Glendale. It was sort of the wind down of the Glendale era.
Right, and
until it was
the young people, and
the young.
We went off to ourselves after that. We didn't have.
Well, you continued traveling a lot too. I think that whole foreign exchange service sort of triggered you to go see the world, and you used to take almost an annual trip around the world. You'd go to Asia and Europe, and so that was great. I mean, I assume you loved that travel.
Oh yeah. And I can still remember a lot of it. I can. You say, what's it? Now I can't say. Some Italian city.
Florence and Rome and Naples and all those big cities.
Well, it was one of them that I'm thinking of, and I can see the hotel and the streets. And, and it's one of those names, probably.
Okay, well, my batteries are running down. I know one of the things that was nice as you wrapped up that period of your lives, you were known to take people on. You took Gail Mindling with you to Paris. I mean, you were the tour guide, so to speak. And but Hal was another one, and I don't think you ever visited him in either South Africa or Australia, but you did. Yeah, you didn't visit these people so much.
No, well, but
they visited. Yes.
I met his parents. They came to visit us. Hal's parents.
Okay, well, we're going to leave Glendale, and we'll come back to Winona at another time after I've charged my battery. So we're going to sign this one off.